3, 2, 1, go. Well, welcome back. Salakia, y'all. Had a few technical difficulties that I had to address and rectify, but we're back. And like a few of these Friday night heats, this Sinners review is going to be a part 2, which I really should have known because the movie is 2 hours and some change long. But where we at right now is I did a little flashback back to when Sammy and Stack were driving in the car. And Stack gives Sammy an impromptu sex ed lesson when he says that we gonna say kwaba in the interest of not being vulgar. Stack tells Sammy that every kwaba has a button on it. You take that button and you lick it. Not too hard, not too soft. And then the point of reference he gives them is, you know that ice cream from downtown? Yeah. It tastes good, but you don't want it gone too quick. Now, the button that Stack is referring to is the clitoris. And he says, lick that. And that's how you keep a woman. Now, we get back to the opening of Club Juke. And Sammy and Pearline meet up because Pearline walked from wherever she was living to Club Juke. And Sammy pulled Pearline in the room and Stack was like, yo, hold up, yo, Sammy. And then, yo, Sammy, this dude here, Sammy goes to use this advice that Stack gave him. And Pearline is like, yo, hold up. Pearline is trying to tell him, hold up, let me freshen up. I did walk over here. And he's like, hold on, I did walk over here. Let me freshen up. But Sammy was not trying to hear that at all. And then he goes, and then Stack is trying to call for Sammy, and he hears Pearline in the room moaning, and Stack is like, yeah, he found that button. And so everybody's basically having a good time. Now, when the sun was, while Stack and Smoke was setting up, and when the sun was going down, we have a man named Remick. Remick, the sun is getting ready to go down, and Remick is coming into the house, and he's smoking as the sun is getting ready to go down. And he runs up on the house of a white couple named Joan and Bert. And he says that people are coming for him, and they're trying to kill him, and right? Now, right after, so what Remick does is he pulls out these gold coins, and basically he pulls out these coins offering to pay Joan and Bert for shelter and for protection from a group of Choctaw vampire hunters. And then that's what Remick says. Oh, I'm being hunted down by some Choctaws. So he's like, wait a minute. You sure it's Choctaw? Ain't no Indians. That's what they called Gad back in the day. Ain't no Indians around here for miles. You sure it wasn't some fair skin? And then he said the N-word. Again, I don't really care one way or the other, but you know, YouTube community standards and all. Hey, ain't some fair skinned N-words. And so the Choctaw said, the Choctaw tried to tell Joan when she answers the door with a rifle pointed right at him. Like, look, we've been looking for a man that came through this way earlier. And then Joan's like, I ain't seen nobody. And then the Choctaw, the leader of the Choctaws is like, yo, he is not what he seems. You didn't let him in, did you? Because if you did, God help you. And then he says and then one of his party one of the other Choctaws in the party is like, he says to him in Choctaw, "Yo, man, hurry up. Yo, we got to get out of here." Because the sun is starting to set. He's like, "Yo, man, we got to get out of here." So he's leaving. So, so they like, "Yo, come on, man, we got to go. We got to go." And then the Choctaw, not knowing whether or not Joan allowed Remick in the house, he says to Joan in Choctaw, "May God be with you." And then they ride on out. Now, now there's Choctaw, right? And the reason why I mentioned Choctaw is at the beginning of the movie when they said, there are people with the power to play music that can break the veil between life and death. Those are the three ethnic groups that are mentioned. The Irish, which will come into play later, the Irish, West Africans, the actress that played Annie was a West African woman, and Choctaw Native Americans. Now, we go back to Club Juke, and also something else she also said that's very powerful. People that play this type of music, that brings this type of energy, can bring healing to people, but it can also attract evil. Now, Remick is allowed into Joan and Bert's house, and Joan finds Bert laid down on the floor in a pool of his own blood. And then Remick is like, "Oh, don't worry about it. He's just resting." Remick has glowing red eyes and fangs. It is revealed when they're in the house that Remick is a vampire. Remick is a vampire. He's turned Bert, and then Joan ends up being next. Now, again, this music has the power to heal people. But again, that's on the right-hand side. When people, and Sammy was one of those people that could play, he could sing, he could play guitar. Sammy had that type of power. He could play music that broke the veil between life and death. And in a scene in the movie, Sammy starts playing. He makes a song that he dedicates to his father. I don't know if this is the name of the song, but the chorus goes, "I know the truth hurts, so I lied to you." Now, Sammy might have done that, but me, I personally couldn't have, because I got told when I was 15. When I was 15 in Queens Village, in some denim shorts and a gray t-shirt featuring some college sports team, I got told by my father and my grandfather, there are three people in this world you never lie to. Your father, your doctor, and your lawyer. And then my father just left it at that. My grandfather, on the other hand, broke it all the way down. You don't lie to your father. You just don't do that. Just no, you don't. You don't lie to your doctor, because if you lie to your doctor, he can't treat you properly. You don't lie to your lawyer, because if you lie to your lawyer, he can't defend you properly. But Sammy made a song talking about he knows the truth hurts, so he lied to his father. And then Sammy gets to playing, and Pearline gets to singing, and what they say is, I was watching a review of Sinners on YouTube, and they said music that the music that Sammy was playing was so powerful that it had the power to transcend time. And Annie mentioned that as well, that music can rouse up spirits that are from the past, the present, and the future. And as the camera pans around to Club Juke, that's what you start to see. You start seeing West African griots, because that's what they were called. As Annie says in the movie, the people that had this type of power in West Africa, they're called griots. In Ireland, they're called Philly. And I can't think of the name that they were called in the Choctaw. But you start seeing everything from Sammy playing guitar in Club Juke, and you start seeing West African drumming circles all the way down to DJ, to a DJ on turntables. Now remember, a DJ on turntables and some woman twerking in the club. This is all stuff that's not gonna, they're playing the music. And when the music is playing, they're showing you types of music and genres of music. These things are not gonna be around for another 60 or 70 years. But again, what they're trying to show in this scene is that Sammy's music is so powerful that it can pierce the veil between life and death, and it also has the power to transcend time. And the music gets the spirits roused up, and the music gets to be so powerful that it looks like Club Juke. It looks like the place is on fire. It isn't on fire literally, but that's the power of the music that Sammy's playing while he sings. And then you got Delta Slim on the piano. The music is so powerful that spiritually speaking, the place is on fire. And that's what's going on with show business. Now that's the show. That right there is the show. Smoke hollers at Stack to talk about the business, because I was watching this movie and found out that wooden nickels were an actual form of currency, because one of the field hands came up. He said, "Oh yeah, we got Italian wine, Irish beer, and whiskey." And so a field hand comes up and said, "Y'all some classy Negroes, huh? Well, I don't need none of that. Corn liquor will do." Now, I'm going to put this on Facebook because I want to know. All my Southern Judites, hey, put me on. What exactly is corn liquor? I've been hearing about it since I was like maybe 11. I'm like, look, I'm from Brooklyn. I don't know nothing about no corn liquor. You Southern folk are going to have to put me on. And he says corn liquor do. Now, you could have got a shot of them 1932 prices. You could have got a shot of corn liquor for 50 cents. And he only paid 30. He had 30 cents in actual money, but he paid the balance with wooden nickels. Yeah, that's when field hands and sharecroppers would work. I mean, really though, Esau was being the devil. They wouldn't even pay them in real money. That's what they paid them when they would do sharecropping, and they would bring their haul in to get paid. That's what Esau paid them with, wooden nickels. And that's what he tried to pay with. Now, Smoke is like, look, we can't keep letting these field hands come in here and pay with wooden nickels. We need real money. And then Stack is like, yo, hold on, man. Stack and Annie tell him, yo, hold on, wait a minute. This is a place where these people can come in and unwind. They've been in the field all day, you know? And so Annie and Stack are trying to tell him, like, listen, if you want this thing to last, what you need to do is, let them rock. So Smoke is kind of like, meh. But then he ends up telling Mary, because Mary comes through. And Cornbread's working the door, and Cornbread being just as cordial as ever, like, excuse me, ma'am, can I help you? Because Mary is what they call white presenting. In other words, she does have some black in her, but she's light enough to pass for a white woman. And then Cornbread's like, Lil Mary, because you know everybody in the town knew Mary. Lil Mary. And you know, they have a few words and Cornbread eventually lets her in. And Mary goes and she has a good time. Sammy comes up to her again. I know I'm jumping around from scene to scene in the movie. Forgive me, y'all, but I'm just mentioning everything as it comes to me. Sammy comes up to her talking about, I really don't think you should be here. I'm with the twins. And then Smoke finds out that Mary's at the juke, and he's like, look, I wanted you to be healthy. I wanted you to be happy. That's why I told you to get the F out of here. I wanted you to be healthy and happy and safe. And I knew that you couldn't get none of that being with me. And he's like, yo, you done moved up to Little Rock and got you your white husband. And then she's like, I didn't want to be white. I wanted to be with you. Now, Mary talking about she didn't want to be white, but she sure exercised some of that white privilege when she kept calling Sammy a boy when she touched down at the train station. But eventually what happens is Mary does something to mess everything up later on. Now, go back to the music. That's the show, the business. To go back to the music, right? Sammy is up in there. He's playing. Everybody's having a good time. They playing a song called Pale Moon. And it's just, everybody is just in there getting all the way down. And next thing you know, Remick, Joan, and Bert come up to the juke talking about, we hear tale of a party. And then Cornbread tells somebody, yo, go get the twins. Go on, get them. Go on now, get them. Go get the twins. And then Smoke and Stack they come to the door. Like, yo, hold up. Now, this is a juke joint. A juke joint for black folks in the Mississippi Delta in 1932. A place, something black folks don't get much of. A place that is just for them to come and enjoy themselves. Music, food, gambling, liquor. Again, the name of the movie is Sinners. And truth be told, there is a whole lot of sin taking place up in there. Food, that is a sin because you're not supposed to eat catfish according to the dietary law. But food, liquor, you can drink, but you do have to govern yourself properly. Food, drink. There's food, drink, liquor, gambling, dancing. This is a place for black folks to go and have a good time because they really can't do it anywhere else. And then next thing you know, here come Remick, Joan, and Bert. Like, what the hell are these three white people doing here? Like, hey, we heard about a party. We heard about some music. And then Stack says, like, look, there's a whole bunch of white places up the road. Y'all could go holler at one of them. And then Remick is in there talking about Smoke ass, quite frankly, he kept it G. Yo, y'all clan? And he's like, sir. Basically said like, what? Basically Remick is want to be like, please don't insult me like that. So we got money. We want to come in and party. Now, Remick and Joan and Bert, three white people pulling up to a black juke joint in 1932. If that right there is not Ecclesiasticus 12 and 10. Now, Remick came in talking about equality for all. But this is what the Lord said. Ecclesiasticus, Sirach, chapter 12, verse 10. Never trust thine enemy, for like as iron rusteth, so is his wickedness. Just as sure as iron rusts, so is the wickedness of the enemy. Now, initially, they had words and Smoke wanted to come in and said, no, we believe in equality for all people. Smoke wasn't trying to hear that. They stepped up. They walked up on Smoke and Cornbread, and it was like Smoke was reaching for that thing, because that's why his name was Smoke. He kept that thing on him. Smoke had that thing, and he's like, sir, Remick is like, sir, you don't need to do that. Like, yo, Smoke is like, yo, it can get real. And then they walked away. Now remember, Remick, Joan, and Bert are vampires. A little bit later on in the movie, Stack tells Mary about the Juke having financial problems. So what Mary goes and does is she goes out and she convinces Stack, yo, let me go talk to these three white people. And then Smoke is like, yo, hold up, wait a minute, man. You spill a drink on one of them, or somebody looks at that woman a little too long. Nah. So Mary's like, look, y'all having financial problems right now, and these people might be able to solve them. So what happens is Mary goes out and she talks to Remick. Remick tells her about, before that, Remick, Joan, and Bert, they play an Irish folk song called Pick Poor Robin Clean. And everybody else is looking at them like they're retarded. Stack actually started dancing to the song, but then they were refused entry. And that is an actual Irish folk song, Pick Poor Robin Clean. So they get turned away, and they said that they were going to walk away real slow. But actually what they did was post it up. And they got to talking to Mary, and she saw them glowing red eyes, and she pulled out a gun and walked away. And as soon as she walked away, Remick jumped on Mary and turned her. And Mary says, well, Cornbread, come on, let me in. Now, remember, the vampire story is one that has been told before. Sinners is by no means the first vampire movie ever made. But one legend that it does hold true to is vampires cannot do anything unless you invite them into your house. And that's exactly what Mary did right after she was turned. Mary's like, come on, Cornbread, let me in. She couldn't do anything unless Cornbread told her, hey, come on in. Mary goes back into the Juke. And something is going on. And Stack, like, Sammy has to go get Stack. And then Delta Slim knew the whole, like, okay, Mary goes in, she's at the Juke. And then, next thing you know, Cornbread asked Delta Slim to watch the door for him because he had to pee. So Cornbread's like, yo, I gotta pee, man. Now, Cornbread goes to go pee in a deleted scene. Cornbread is out off to the side handling his business, and the female vampire, Joan, is looking at him and was like, oh, don't stop on account of me. Joan violated guy code. And guy code is that if you are going to do a man in and you find that he's paying the water bill, what you're supposed to do is let him finish. So, and that's probably where Cornbread got bit. Now, going back, Mary comes in, she starts seducing Stack, and the two of them are getting it in some room somewhere. And then Stack is like, before they get to getting, Stack is like, Mary, you drooling. And then Mary's like, you want some? And oh Lord. Next thing you know, Mary comes in and she bites Stack. And she done turned him. And they go in and like, and so, like, yo, Stack, what's up? So they open the door, and next thing you know, Stack dead. And then Mary comes up, and cow. Smoke whoops out both of his pistols, and Mary falls, but she wakes up saying, we gonna kill every last one of y'all. Because now them vampires done turned her. So Mary gets turned, and then she turns Stack. And then sooner or later, Cornbread. Here comes Cornbread. He's at the door. And Cornbread's like, hey, let me in. And then Annie's like, no, let me go back. Mary gets shot and runs out into the woods. And Annie, Smoke asks Annie, what the hell had happened to Mary? And then Annie mentions something about a haint. And she mentions something about how, the soul is trapped in the body and they can't join their ancestors. And then Cornbread is at the door talking about, let me in. And then Annie's like, yo, hold up, Cornbread. You big and strong enough to push past all of us. Why all of a sudden do you need a personal invitation to walk in? And then Annie and Cornbread are going back and forth. It said, now we out here playing around and telling ghost stories instead of doing what we ought to be doing. And then Annie or Smoke asks, well, Cornbread, what's that? And then here come Cornbread, being kind to one another. Now we one peoples. Now, that's how that right there brings to mind another scripture. The righteous is more excellent than his neighbor, but the way of the wicked seduceth them. Cornbread then got turned, and Annie mentions this. So you not gonna mention that? Mention what? That you dead. That one of them white folks killed you and you a haint now. And then they keep going back and forth and back and forth. And then Cornbread's like, well, give me my money. And then Slim is like, give you your money, right? Because you did such a bang up job working the door. So Smoke goes to pay Cornbread. And next thing you know, Cornbread tries to bite him. And Smoke ends up shooting him in the head. And then that's when Annie finds out these ain't haints. These are vampires. Now, Annie tells everybody that they're dealing with vampires and they say, we need wood, we need garlic, and we need silver. And Stack wakes up. Come on, man. It's like, Stack, you lost a lot of blood. Yeah, I know, but I'm good. And then next thing you know, Stack wakes up and Mary done turned him. And then they locked him in the closet. Stack breaks the door down. Annie throws something in his face and he runs out. And so Perline asks, what was in that? What was in that jar? Pickled garlic. So now, at this point in time, with Mary and Cornbread and Stack, they know what they're dealing with. They dealing with vampires. So they getting all the wood, they getting all the garlic, all the silver. they all have to, at some point in time, what Andy says is they give everybody a piece of garlic. Now, Israel, this is kind of reminiscent of the Sadar meal. Everybody eats a piece of garlic to prove that they're not a vampire. Delta Slim eats his piece and he starts bugging all the way out. But earlier on, after Mary and after the whole cornbread thing, Delta Slim comes in talking about, y'all smell anything? No. Delta Slim says, I think I shat myself. Like shat. Shat is the past tense of shit. Like, I think I shat myself. So Delta Slim eats the garlic. He starts tripping. Smoke thinks he done turned, but no, what happened was somebody said it. He been drinking that beer and he eating garlic, and yeast and garlic don't go together. So basically what happened was the combination of the yeast and the garlic wrought havoc on his guts. So they decide to take one last stand, and they got the vampires at the door. Now, Grace is there in the house with them, in the juke joint. And the vampires done turned Bo Chow. And what happened is what Remick is telling them is, listen, after we kill y'all and we turn y'all into vampires, we can all come and be one big happy family. To the point where all the vampires are out there. See, this is why the Lord said in Sirach 6:13, separate thyself from thy enemies. Because after Stack and Cornbread and everybody get turned, there's one scene in the movie where Stack is out there damn river dancing. Now, when the hell you ever seen a black man river dancing? But they said, look, all we got to do is survive till sunrise, and these vampires will die and we'll be good. Now, Remick tells Smoke, it don't matter how much money you got, how many guns you got. These people will take this from you whenever they see fit to do so. And he says, just let us in and basically turn everybody, and we can all be one big happy family. So they don't want that. And then Annie says straight up, she didn't want to be a vampire. Cause she didn't want to have to live without sunlight. And she told Smoke, as much as Smoke loved her, she told him, if I ever get bit, kill me before I turn. And then this is how he breaks Grace. Bo Chow got turned by Remick, and Remick tells her, I know everything that Bo knows. He and I share the same mind. I know everything he knows. And then once he says, I even know how you like to be licked, and breaks that down in their own language, when she says that white devil spoke Chinese. Now, this begs one question for me. This is one question I have. Does Ryan Coogler have an affinity for cunnilingus? Now, for those of you that don't know, cunnilingus is the proper term for when you're giving oral attention to a woman. And the reason why I ask is because he mentions it several times throughout the movie. The first time, when Stack is giving Sammy the game on how to keep a woman. Then, when Mary mentions it to Stack. Then, when Sammy actually does it. And then, when Remick starts talking to Grace Chow. And then, what Remick said that broke her was, we gonna go down to the general store and we gonna pay little Lisa a visit. There's Bo Chow and Grace Chow. Lisa was their daughter. Once she said that, Grace Chow just loses it, gets emotional, and invites the vampires in. And there's a big old fight, a big old showdown between the vampires and the people left that are human. Now, what Remick said was turning everybody else, that was just collateral damage. The person he really wanted was Sammy. Because Sammy was one of those people that knew how to play music that could pierce that veil between life and death. Remember what Annie said. People with that type of power can heal, but they can also attract evil. And that's what happened. And earlier on, Delta Slim tells Sammy, religion was forced on us. The blues, we brought this with us from home. I'm assuming home being West Africa or even Jerusalem. We brought this with us from home. Not like that religion that was forced on us. So there's a big old brawl that takes place. Pearline gets killed and Annie gets bitten, dies, and Grace Chow ends up burning. And next thing you know, after all of that goes on, the only two people left alive are Smoke and Sammy. And Sammy makes his way back to the church, like in the opening scene. But before that happens, remember, the vampires are all connected. So when Sammy takes the guitar and goes upside Remick's head with it, all the vampires feel that pain. So after this big pre-sunrise brawl, Remick is killed. All the vampires burn up. And Remick is burned up in a pillar of flame. But before that happens, they start quoting the Our Father, Matthew 6:9. But they forgot one part. They forgot they quote the Our Father, but they forgot the last part. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever and ever. Amen. They forgot that last part. Remick says that the words bring them comfort. But Smoke, it said, Hogwood comes back with his Circle Society buddies. Said, oh, Club Juke, huh? Grand opening, grand closing. Smoke takes his last stand, gets his guns, gets ready. Jeremiah 51:20. Thou art my battle axe and weapon of war. And that's exactly what Smoke becomes. And takes out Hogwood and a few of the other Circle Society members. But he gets shot in the process. Smoke gets shot in the process and passes away. After all of that goes down, we go to a post-credit scene. It is now, instead of 1932, it is now 1992. And the elder Sammy, he had a club. He named the club Pearlines. So he has this club, and the bouncer says, hey, boss, there's two people outside. I told him we was closed, but what you want me to do? Let him in. And then the two people turn out to be Stack and Mary. His vampire bride, if you want to call it that. And they're dressed a little more. Now, I ain't gonna lie. That Coogee sweater that Smoke had on was fire. And the high top fade he was rocking was kind of appropriate for 1992. And what Smoke does, Stack can tell that Sammy's due to lead his world any day now. He ain't got much longer to be here. And he offers to turn him. And Sammy's like, I'm good, man. And then he tells him, about once a week, I wake up paralyzed because of the nightmares I have. But before the sun went down, that was the best day of my life. And then Stack says, like that for me too. The last time I saw the sun, and the last time I saw my brother. And then Stack and Mary walk out, and that's the movie. Now, a few tidbits. People are already saying Ryan Coogler deserves some type of award for this movie. And he does, because the movie was straight fire. It was wonderful. Like I said, I did pay $25 to watch it on Google TV, and it was worth every single penny. It really was. It was an excellent movie. Excellent. For me, 10 out of 10. Also, they said that Sinners has surpassed Jaws as the second best horror movie in North America. And Jaws just had its 50th anniversary. So that right there goes to show you that we, the people, we are the salt of the earth. Matthew 5:13. And like I said, there was that one deleted scene where I think I said, yeah, Cornbread might have gotten bitten on his rod, and that's how he got turned. But yeah, everybody had their own review and had their own breakdown of the movie Sinners. This has been my breakdown of the movie Sinners. And I just want to say, Kwum Yashala, strength and honor, Shalom. This has been your host, Elder Priest Sabal Lawalam, with another late as hell edition of Friday Night Heat. Kwum Yashala, strength and honor. Shalom. I'm out.